Have you ever felt like your shoe is really holding you back on your long runs? My name's Drew. I'm an amateur runner here in Flagstaff, Arizona. Today I'm going to give you a few recommendations and tips on how to find the right long run shoe for you and what are those different characteristics that will make up a really fantastic long run shoe. Let's go. Run is not just a staple workout in your marathon training plan. It is often the run during the week that is going to give you the biggest adaptations to perform on race day in your marathon. In order to build yourself into the best runner you can possibly be, you need to select the right tool for the job to make sure that you execute well and you're very well prepared to achieve your goals when you get to your race. The long run is a very key workout that is going to give you the benefits, the aerobic benefits, the strength benefits to really perform in your marathon. And so don't skimp on the shoe that you select to perform that specific workout that week. There are a few different components of a long run that might determine which shoe you select. Some people do long slow distance or LSD long running. A long slow distance run will definitely require different shoe characteristics than a steady state or a progression run that is going to have you ending your run in much faster paces. A lot of times I ask some of the people that I coach to do longer intervals at marathon pace or potentially down to threshold pace, often toward the end of a long run. If you have the wrong shoe that makes you feel tired and heavy, but it's extremely comfortable, then it can make executing on that specific workout very challenging. In the reverse, you also have some people running in super shoes on their long runs that have a very awkward cadence where if you're not running at your marathon pace or faster, those shoes can make your run very awkward, very unstable. You also will be just extremely uncomfortable for much of those runs because you're going to be running at a very awkward cadence and your foot strike is going to be different. The carbon plate won't be functioning properly as it's designed because super shoes are meant to operate at certain speeds and certain paces. Making sure that you're looking for the right shoe that fits your needs, your mechanics, your specific training model, then you're going to increase your chances of having a really successful long run and building your overall aerobic engine, making sure that your legs are strong enough to handle a lot of the mileage that marathon training requires, and just being prepared to run really fast during your race. So one thing that I really love to have in a long run shoe is versatility. I like to have a shoe that will allow me to run comfortably at a wide range of paces. Usually my long runs in training are very purposeful, and so I'm attempting to get a very specific stimulus or a specific type of effort during that training. So for me, like to reiterate, that means steady state to progression runs, to marathon paced long runs, down to some different cruise intervals at faster than marathon pace during my long run. So it's a pretty wide range, and versatility in a shoe is very important to make sure that I can execute on across all of those ranges. For a lot of the people I coach, I almost never prescribe the long, slow distance long run unless we are not in half marathon or marathon training. If we're in 5K or 10K training, then I think a 90-minute to 2-hour long, slow distance run on the weekend is totally fine, and often your kind of typical daily trainer, highly cushioned daily trainer can usually take those miles. In marathon training, it's a little bit different. I like the versatility. So one thing that I love about this shoe that I picked up recently, this is the ASICS SuperBlast. It's been out for a while. I've wanted to try it for a very long time. It has kind of a big price tag. I paid $200 US for this pair of shoes, but in my opinion, it was well worth it. They definitely fall into the super trainer category, which is a higher price range of trainers So it's not necessarily a race shoe, although depending on the paces that you're running, you definitely could race in the shoe. It's light enough, it's responsive enough. You know, it's definitely very bouncy and feels good and responsive when you're running. So I paid $200 US for this. I think it was well worth it. And it has some key features that I'll get into that make it a really good long run shoe for what I'm asking it to do. So that versatility factor of able to run kind of in an easy range up to a steady state easy, or kind of zone 3, gray zone, or even a marathon pace or threshold pace. I took this shoe running through all of those paces this weekend. I purposefully took it from an easy pace progressively to a very steady, easy range, and then up to my marathon pace. And on some downhills, I even got up to kind of threshold to 10K pace, just to feel out how the shoe is responding for the latter end of my long run. Overall, it feels very bouncy. I love the fact that it has no carbon plate. That's awesome. I'm not a big fan of using carbon plated racers in my everyday training. I really like giving my feet and my legs the feeling of a normal shoe in training, so that when I go to do a really big session or a pre-race session or get into a race, that carbon plated racer is really gonna feel super responsive, bouncy, and just do everything I ask it to do. And it really makes you feel much better on race day. So it doesn't have a plate, but it's pretty stiff, but I don't wanna bend it too much. But as you can see, it still bends a lot. So that's gonna make your footwork a little bit. The cushion in the shoe is very soft, and I'll do a little squeeze test here. Very soft, but not too soft. It's got a ton of stack height. I think the foam condenses just enough so that you're getting a lot of shock absorption and bounce, but you're not sacrificing stability. So when we talk about versatility, there are a few other factors that will allow the shoe to perform at different paces. One is the stability of the shoe, and stability is important because it's going to limit your injury risk. It's going to allow you to feel really stable when you push off your toes, depending on whether or not you pronate. So if your foot collapses in, or you supinate, which is more of an outward roll, the stability factor of the shoe will attempt to contain that and keep it from turning into a problem. If you pronate drastically, you might want to lean toward more of a true stability shoe, which is going to be probably a little bit heavier, and you're not going to be able to run as fast in it, but it'll prevent you from having foot and lower leg issues. This shoe definitely is more of like a stable neutral shoe, and it feels really good at operating through a lot of those pace ranges. It's got a really great roll off the forefoot. I love that, just that bounce off the forefoot feels really good and light, and the weight of the shoe is not even really noticeable until you start doing things like strides or some faster 5K pace work. Let's see how much this thing weighs. All right, so it weighs in at 8.96 ounces. That's pretty damn light for a shoe like this, especially with such tall stack height. I think it has an 8mm drop, which is pretty standard, and it feels pretty darn good. Okay, so we've covered versatility and stability. Next, I'd say comfort is a huge factor in your long run. Without a comfortable shoe that you feel really good operating, like I said, through a wide range of paces on your long runs, you're going to sacrifice your ability to want to stay out there on your feet for a long period of time. So that's probably the most important factor in executing a long run, is staying out there and completing the long run. Especially if you're a runner who needs to be on their feet for up to 3 hours in order to train for a goal pace. If you have a shoe that is not comfortable, you're going to cause some serious damage when you're out there for that long. This shoe felt fantastic comfort-wise. I mean, probably one of the most comfortable shoes I've ever had. So love it. And lastly, the responsiveness of the shoe is super important. So if I were to take this shoe and try and run the same paces as, let's say, the Alpha Fly, it's definitely not going to have the same responsiveness as the Alpha Fly. The Alpha Fly has a carbon fiber plate. It's super firm, a ton of energy return from these little sacks in there, the air, what do they call them? Sacks. These little AirPods. That's not even a word, that's a headphone. Whatever. It's got tons of bounce from the ZoomX foam. It's got these little AirPods in there that give a ton of bounce off the forefoot. They do kind of slap, and the comfort factor is not very good in these. So if you're going to be doing all of your long runs in an Alphafly, not only are you going to be wasting money because these will definitely wear out very quickly, the wear on those is significant. And I probably only have maybe 200 miles on these, whereas a shoe like the SuperBlast, I mean, I could see these going over 500 miles and not having any issues. So for responsiveness, if you're looking for pure responsiveness, hard workout, huge session, you want to go for a super shoe or a shoe that's built for a really responsive ride, great, go for it. But for me, I really would prefer to have something that's kind of in the middle ground where you have the responsiveness that you need for most of your long runs. You have the versatility, a lower price point that's at $200 versus the Alphafly. These, you can't even get them anymore. If you can online, tell me where, because I'd love to get an Alphafly one. But most super shoes are now in the $300 range. It just seems like it's gonna last a really long time. So overall, your ROI is gonna be much better on a shoe that is like this, much more well-rounded. So when you're looking at selecting your shoes for your marathon training shoe rotation, make sure to select a daily trainer, a workout shoe. So I would recommend something that does not have a carbon plate, is not a race shoe, but is something very light, responsive, and you're able to pick up the pace at, and that can handle maybe 10 to 13 miles without having any sort of injury or fatigue. Race shoe and a long run shoe. So a long run shoe is something, like I mentioned, is versatile, is comfortable, is stable, and is responsive. And the versatility factor, I think, is the biggest factor, because you're going to ensure that you have a shoe that will last a long time, you have a shoe that you feel comfortable in, and you can operate within a wide range of paces wherever you go on whatever type of long run you have prescribed. All right, so if you've made it this far, thank you for watching this video. Thanks for sticking around. I hope you go out and find the perfect shoe for you. I'd recommend check out the SuperBlast. If it's not just me saying it, go on YouTube, search ASICS SuperBlast. You're gonna find tons of people who absolutely love this shoe. It's to the extent that it's hard to find. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you're running your long runs in and how it's working out for you. If you disagree with anything I said in this video, let me know. I'd love to hear it and talk about it. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Happy running.